Do you remember God, I want to say it was September or October 99 EGM. There was just a gigantic Dreamcast logo, and it
Mm,
was it was like every single fucking thing you could possibly get about the Dreamcast.
hmm.
It was fucking huge.
Staring at that
And
Sonic fucking whale screenshot. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and like I read that thing cover to cover and was like, I gotta somehow get my fucking parents to get me a Dreamcast. And despite not knowing a single goddamn shit fuck thing about video games, my mom and dad said, "You told us that about the Saturn, and that thing got discontinued, and that's still made by Sega, right? You can get a PS2." And I went, "Fuck, but Dreamcast!"
Yeah,
And like a
yeah,
couple years
yeah.
later, I was like, wow, they actually fucking totally nailed that, like dead on, like all the way from
Um,
the outside.
that's amazing that they have the knowledge of the production because to my mom, it's all still the Nintendo, you know. Um, and
My
to
dad
be
was like,
fair,
"Isn't that a Sega thing? Isn't that the same thing that I had to drive you to Burlington to buy a memory card for?" And I'm like, no.
for many of us and our parents, it will always be the Nintendo. And before we make fun of them, motherfucker, do you call them runes or souls? Because when you're playing
I
Elden
go
Ring,
either way.
those are souls on the ground, and that's a bonfire, and your brain will not correct you otherwise, and you are just like your boomer parents.
So I'll say by the end of Elden Ring, I was pretty consistent about runes and graces. But to be fair, Elden Ring is like 2 or 3 Souls games in a row.
Yeah, yeah.
So
But you're
yeah,
fighting fighting
it took me
your history, you know?
it took me a bit.
It hurts. So anyway, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say I mean, I had the EGM with the Ultra 64 on it before it was when it was called Ultra, and it was like Mario standing back and it was glowing and popping his hands out, and it's like holy motherfuck, that shit has 4 slots on the cover. It's gonna have 4 player fight games. Like that's crazy, right off the bat. Yeah, yeah, there was a time, man. There was a time. But E3's
Ah,
fucking
damn
done,
it. What was
and
his fucking name? Was it Sushi X?
oh, Sushi X, yeah, Game Bureau, Game
Dude,
Pro, yeah,
fucking
Sushi X.
Sushi X
Mm-hmm.
was the
Mm-hmm.
most fucking incredible fucking racket in video games where there was no real Sushi X. It was just a fake bullshit guy they made
What was the
up.
real story
So
behind him? I forget.
that's the story. There's no story. It was whenever they just wanted to print either whatever shit they'd never get clearance to print or could not confirm, or just be like, wouldn't it be fucking funny if we wrote a bunch of bullshit and everybody believed it? That's it. There's no story. There was no actual person named Sushi X. It was
No,
whoever the fuck wanted to just write the column that week.
and I want to say he had a cool like Ninja Turtle looking fucking ab picture for the portrait or whatever. Yeah. Anyway, anyway, um,
Man, my favorite experience with game magazines was always getting the tips and tricks, which is usually 100% solid, and then
yep.
the game would come out, and like it was every single fucking thing in the guide was completely wrong. Like I
EGM
told you about. Oh, that's good.
right here, Mario on the cover. Is 1999 the year Nintendo gets it right?
Oh my god.
That is an era. Yeah, I'm holding up the cover of this EGM I still have here, and not to mention the first video game magazine I've ever purchased. I don't know how and why this survived, but it did. It's a Super Nintendo buyer's guide with Fatal Fury
Damn.
2 on the cover. It's a fucking trip. The back has an ad for High Seas Havoc.
Get the fuck out.
Amazing Fatal Fury art on the cover. Alfred the fucking chicken
Oh,
and Lethal Enforcers ads on the inside page. I mean, dude, this was a time.
It's always wild going back and looking at
Playmates.
these and seeing what people thought was going to be the next big thing or was going to be the shit. I still remember getting a tips and tricks back in 97, 98 that was like, coming soon. Did you love FF7? Here comes the N64's fucking killer app, Quest 64.
Yeah.
And it's just like, Jesus shit. Are you kidding me? And the fucking magazines that were like, Symphony of the Night, that's old 2D shit. Who gives a fuck? Castlevania 64, it's 3D old shit.
I got
God damn it.
a solid 3 years worth of Nintendo Power subscription by simply eating cereal. We never could afford it, but we ate enough Reese's Cocoa Puffs, and they came with free subscriptions for 1 year to Nintendo Power. I forget if we had to just like collect 3 or 4, but it was a very doable number. So we just did that, and we got free Nintendo Powers for 3 years. It was the fucking best.
Man, there's something else about old magazines that is like a completely lost art that will never continue to exist in today's the way information's gone out. And I'm thinking about the preview section. I forget which one it was. I want to say tips and tricks. I bought that one the most. I liked it the best. But and it was they had a preview section in the back, and you had a situation in which one of the editors had clearly gotten to play a couple hours of Ocarina of Time.
Mm-hmm.
And they were given 200 words and 3 screenshots to try and get across to you. Like how fucking mind-blowing Ocarina of Time was. And you like in hindsight, you can see them like screaming against the word count and the reality of how to get, there's like, it's impossible. So what did they do? They focused on like this tiny little story about the Deku stick and how the Deku stick actually broke, and had screenshots of that and like lighting the fucking web on fire. Right?
Yeah. I mean, I remember like one of the screenshots where you saw the arrow in first person from the early build, and like my brain just auto completed because I saw that.
Oh yeah.
You were on third person camera, but the arrow was first person, and I'm thinking about Zelda and I go, oh my god, it's the game that's everything. It will allow, like, the camera will let you shoot in FPS, and then you'll fight in third person, and then you'll walk around in, like, Zelda view. It's going to be the greatest game ever made, you know? Like,
I remember reading a preview of MGS1 that got to have 2 screenshots. One was the snowfield, and one was, like, crawling through a duct, I think it was. And, like, the writer couldn't figure out how to get across how fucking crazy it was that it was fully voice acted. Like there was no context at all to explain it, and so it sounded like shit. They're like, it's the voices there. It's like a Saturday morning cartoon that never, and it's like, and so you got this thing where you get these little fantasies about what the game would be like. But because of the limits of the medium, it could never live up to what the game actually was. So you'd get games that you'd be crazy excited for, and they would blow you away 100 times stronger than you could have imagined. And that's gone. That will never happen again.
You know how I fucking learned about Metal Gear Solid? I learned about that because my friend Misha was sitting with me in the back of church while a sermon was going on. He was whispering to me about all the crazy shit he saw from playing the first 2 hours of the game. And he's like, and then there's like a spy, and you're doing like, it's like a spy game, but then you get calls on the radio, and like the radio conversations are happening for real. And there's different people you can call, and like you're learning about war and like what types of guns were used, and he was just telling this unbelievable tale of a game that didn't sound like a game. It sounded like he was describing a James Bond movie, you know. And I'm like, what do you mean there's real footage of Muff What? I don't
What does
understand what
that
you
what does that
mean.
mean?
You know? And he's like, it's all real. The game is real. There's real conversations. You're playing a real game. He just kept calling it real, you know? And I was like, how is this, like, what? And yeah, and what I got, like, was incredible. But it just, like, that's my excitement, is me in the back of church just fucking bouncing on the pew, getting so hyped because he's whispering about this game in my ear. That's my intro to Metal Gear Solid 1.
So there's a lot of folks that are listening to us that are younger, and we're talking about the good old days of the way we used to consume this media. And there's an example that I can try and give that like, you legitimately could not fucking believe how crazy the fucking thing in your hands was, and it was a very specific time, from like the mid '90s onwards. And the example that lives for free in my mind is Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 8, right? RE7 came out in 2017, and it was fucking cool. And then RE8 came out in 2021, and it was fucking cooler, right? The distance between those two is the same distance between Final Fantasy 6 and Metal Gear Solid 1.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. Okay.
Right? You're going from pixel art of fucking characters that are 12 pixels high and MIDI music to fucking real audio of voice actors that's like literally 20-30 hours of voice with polygonal graphics. Like that was like, FF6 was when I was in fucking grade 4, and FF7 came out when I was in grade 6.
Yeah.
And then like the first year of high school, Metal Gear Solid came out. Like, it was fucking imagine.
I don't that's the one thing, is like, I don't think, whatever we're talking about, our boomer memories to the younger kids here, I don't think you understand how, like, glacial the tech improvements have been compared to what it was been in the 90s. Yeah. Specifically 96 to 2000 was,
oh yeah,
it made no sense. The genre got reinvented like 5 times. Because by the end of that, we were seeing the screenshots of Tekken Tag 2 on the PS2 for launch, and Jin looked as smooth as his cutscenes used to look. And it was like in gameplay. And I remember going, but that's impossible. We're not there yet. And we were. We were, you know? The desperation to get your parents to buy the newest shit was so much stronger when it was like, you could show them with their eyeballs, this was what old Mario Beat Boop was, and now it's fucking Safer Sephiroth. You know, like it was a huge visceral difference that, like, it was, you felt like you were missing out if you were not getting into that.
I have 2 things to say about that. I've told this story before, but when I was playing Resident Evil 3 on Christmas morning, my dad looked at Jill take damage and then grab her side because she had taken damage, and the polygonal on the pre-rendered backgrounds, and said the words that every single parent who ever watched those video games said. She's like, I don't think they can make games that look any better than this. That's crazy. Right? And the second thing is that I was doing some quick Googling of years this shit came out, and can zone in on the absolute best example of just how fucking nuts the tech advancement shit used to be. And that is Final Fantasy. Again, Final Fantasy 13 came out in 2009, and Final Fantasy 15 came out in 2016. That's a 7-year gap. The gap between those two is the same as FF6 and FF10.
Little Sprite Terra
what
flying
those 4
around.
games look like compared to each other.
And then Blitzball games. Yeah. Fucking stew on that. Absolutely. Same time frame.
Hey, I'm seeing somebody use a common refrain that says AAA development was a mistake. Buddy, if you don't think that FF10 was the most expensive fucking game to ever exist at the time, you're fucking nuts. They had Hollywood voice actors doing that shit.
The intro won an award. It won
Yeah,
it won a SIGGRAPH award.
that was the era in which CG cutscenes became a dick measuring contest between film and Blizzard and
And Square.
Square's and
Absolutely.
Capcom's Onimusha department.
Mm-hmm. And I remember, and Autodesk was like fully behind Blizzard, and like it was absolutely like, if you're gonna sell your 3D software, you need to have a fucking game pushing it. So Blizzard got 3D Studio Max, and Square was doing, I think Square was doing Maya, and
Yeah.
like at the time it was like these games were big dick wavers that were doing more impressive things than a lot of movies were. Mm-hmm.
And you can tie all of that back to our earlier conversation about the dissemination of information. Do you know why game companies don't spend comparatively a shit zillion dollars of their budget making the most insane intro cutscenes anymore? It's because back in the day, when you wanted to advertise Final Fantasy VII or FF10 or even World of Warcraft at the latest part of this era, you could take your fucking movie plus CG cutscene and put it on TV to play during wrestling during the commercials
And that
and
was it.
tell people that that was what the game was.
That's all you had to do. Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
fucking FF7 advertising is the most outrageous. Like, people talk about fucking downgrades now. You have any idea what a bunch of fucking lies the
The
FF7
infinite lie.
commercials were?
Infinite lie. It was all CG, and it ends on Genova screaming, and then it cuts to the white logo, and you're like, that's the greatest thing I've ever seen. How is that the new Final Fantasy game? And it's like, it's not at all. But we're entering the realm of pre-rendered, you know? And of course, it made anybody who bought a Nintendo feel, an N64, feel like they fucked up.
Oh, it was like a punch in the dick. It was unbelievable.
You went the wrong way, you know?
That
So,
that FF7 commercial that aired during Raw might be responsible for the entire future of all console generations,
it
and it was such a flagrant lie.
I mean, that commercial, and also the moment that Nintendo said, yeah, you know what, we're not doing discs, fuck it. Right? That's the turn of the entire industry.
That was that fucking commercial had
Like,
so much power that I spoke to a kid at school who thought that the reason why it was FF7 was that it was so good they named it number 7 and didn't know that Final Fantasy
they skipped.
existed.
Yeah, man. It was hard being an N64 owner and just console war defense trying to be like, no, well, no, but
The N64 had some obvious classics. I didn't have one at the time. I'm not gonna shit on the N64, but what
but
did
back
happen,
then,
what happened
when
back
lines
in
were
the
drawn,
day, the lines were drawn, and what happened was is that let's say you're Pat and you had a PlayStation 1, and you were Wooly and you had an N64, right? And you did the thing that you did with your close friends. You said, "Hey, well, we don't have enough money to get each console, but why don't I just give you my PlayStation? I trust you, and you'll give me your N64 and your games, and then we'll just play each other's libraries." And what would happen is that I would play Ocarina of Time and Smash and shit like that, and fucking have the best time because holy shit, all people who had an N64 had were fucking super classics,
mm-hmm.
right? Games that'll stand the test of time. I would blow through all those in like 6 weeks, and then ask for my PlayStation back, and Wooly would then tell me I'm not done disc 2 of FF7, and you gave me 8 other games because the library
Yeah.
on the PlayStation was like 5 times the size.
Yeah. Multi-disc games
then-
at that.
And then you get into a fucking I got into a fight with somebody over this because they're like, it's not fair. I haven't played all the games you gave me. And I'm like, I don't give a shit. You gave me 3 because you have Star Fox, Ocarina of Time, and Majora's Mask.
GoldenEye, whatever.
And
yeah.
they're fucking great. But I gave you FF7, FF8, Silent Bomber, and fucking MGS1. Yeah, no shit, you're not done. I don't care. Give my games back.
Yeah, and this is where the rental store comes into play. You know, if you had
And
one,
that's where you convince your dad to let you get a CD burner for
a little bit of that, a little bit of
your
that.
computer.
Hey now, hey
And
dad,
then
we
you,
can.
then you
Hey dad, you want me to listen to your music? Well, we can mix some fucking amazing, amazing classics together and play them in the car if we get a burner.
I still remember the old guy at my microplay, which I think you got actually met that dude because I think you went to the microplay where I used to live, and it was an older Indian or Arabic guy who had glasses and a really angular face. And I still remember when I was like 13 years old, going in and renting like 10 PS1 games and coming back the next morning and giving to them, and him just giving me the fucking stinkiest look in my fucking that I think I've ever received to this day. Just like if he could have fucking punched me in the face, he would
Oh
have.
man, I can't believe how different. And I've told this story before, but that experience is so different from when I rented Oz PC games back in Laval, because the last place on the planet that would let you rent PC games inside of the mall, and not only did they not care, they practically were willing to sell you a blank CD with the rental. Like
Yeah.
they were
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, what do you need? Okay, here you go. Bring it back." And just they were making a fucking killing on these copies, and like no shits were given, you know? They were like, "Yeah, we're making our money. Who cares?" You know?
I think probably you touched on something which is the absolute craziest it ever got, which is the idea that most people don't know that there was a brief period in history where you could rent games for your personal computer.
PC game rentals.
PC
You know,
game rentals did not last long. They started late and they ended early because it was discovered real fucking fast that that was a bad idea.
There was an era of before CD keys where it was literally just copy the contents of this game and drop it onto your computer and you're done. You know, there was an era. Anyways, that's how it was. You kids don't get how you got it today.
They don't know.
And they
just
never
don't
will.
know.
Rest in peace, E3. Rip and rep. Rest in piss. Rip Bozo. Pack watch. Smoke your cigar.
Do you remember at E3 they'd have a fucking round table with fucking Keeley and Guy Kroll and Michael Pachter and every single
Kroll.
every single fucking thing that ever came out of Pachter's mouth was just complete bullshit.
Oh my god.
Do you remember
those
that?
names? Yeah. Those names.
And Guy Kroll would usually like have like a kind of like he'd have like a good perspective on it, and then Keeley would be sitting there trying to pretend like he didn't already know what was going to happen for everything.
What a fucking time. What a time.
I know and Guy Kroll went on to found a studio called Hit Detection, which is a great name for a PR studio for video games, but I don't know what happened to Hit Detection.
I'm remembering the days of Matt Casamassina at IGN.
Fuck.
Sitting on the ground with Perrin Kaplan, the rep for Nintendo, and trying to get a single answer out about anything. And she's literally Jedi quoting away any answers about the consoles, about the games, about any, like, what are you here for? What are you supposed to tell? Do you have a date? Do you have a fucking, is there anything you can tell us? And she's just like, no, but the Nintendo, we're making great things and we have great things coming. You know, and just like reading the most infuriating interviews, man. Yeah.
You know, E3 in my heart has died twice. And unfortunately, they both died along one man. The first time is when Mr. Lang got to sit in on that panel with fucking Ed Boon and died. And the second of which is when he sat in with Johnny Vignacchi, who was so wasted that he put his fucking phone number out live on Twitter. And Dave just tossed his fucking phone behind him and said, well, that thing's fucking worthless now. And died again.
Yeah. If we could play the slow black and white memories, you know, that's what E3 needs. Is it needs a closing in memoriam video.
I still remember Lang going behind the couch to get his phone, going, "Fuck, I gotta keep this piece of shit in case my wife calls and thinks I'm dead."
Oh, Lang. Goddamn. All right. Yeah. No, that was a good stun lock. We got stun locked, but it was fun. Couple other things here. You know what we would have found out at E3? We would have found out that Breath of the Wild 2 has been pushed till next year.
Yeah. Do you want my real take or my fun but also kind of real take?
Sure.
Okay, real take. Yeah, Nintendo shit gets delayed all the time. Especially successors to Wily Super games. They need it to make it real good. Here's the fun one. Aonuma played Elden Ring. All joking aside, that does legitimately happen. Where a producer or a director will play a hot game in their genre during development and go, fuck, somebody caught up to us. We have to do something.
So something that comedians do often is when they're writing their material and they're doing stuff for like a special, like an hour, they'll call around each other and go, hey, does anyone have a bit about this? Does anyone have a bit about Cocker Spaniels? You know, and someone's like, yeah, actually, I think
sometimes the answer is yes.
And they go, okay, all right. And then you call that person, you go, it's not the same premise, but it brings you to the same conclusion. It's parallel thinking. Okay, whatever, right? Aonuma, like, doesn't strike me as somebody that is, like, diving deep into the competition. However, when something like Elden Ring hits and creates what I'm calling, like, the absolute barrier in terms of, like, everyone in the industry is only paying attention to this one thing right now. And you're about to put out your second run at an open world game, which was very successful the first time. There's zero chance he's not squinting at this thing. Zero.
The last time that I can think that this was a totally inescapable comparison.
Skyrim?
No, it was, like, totally inescapable. It was anyone making a game where you shot a gun in third person that was supposed to come out after January of 2004, which was when Resident Evil 4 dropped. And going, shit, our game doesn't feel that good. Our game doesn't look that good. Our game doesn't control that good.
How about Z-targeting? And just like that, just like that,
Z-targeting was this moment where Ocarina of Time came out, and games that were 99% done suddenly went from being cool to controlling like shit.
Instantly. Like, they did not, like, people tried to copy the auto jump for a little bit, but it wasn't a big thing. It didn't take off that much. People tried to, well, certainly, like, we were ready to get rid of hold R and L to turn left and right in a shooter, but Z-targeting came out, and you went, oh no, everything is not this. Oh, we're done. It's over.
I remember as early as February of 1999, kids in my high school asking why the game didn't have full voice acting because MGS did, and it came out a couple months ago. I remember kids in my high school asking why FF9 did not have full voice acting because
Mm-hmm.
MGS did.
Mm-hmm. 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 And that's all it takes, really. Um, God, Z targeting was
People are
fucking
pointing out
huge.
that Elden Ring uses Z targeting, and they're right.
Yeah, it's not a
It's the
thought
same
anymore.
thing.
Soft and
It's
hard locking are things in games now. They were not before. There was a time when you had to just turn your weird 3D thing to face the relative area that, like, old fucking Grand Theft Auto style fucking shooting, you know. Um,
oh,
it was like there was a time when you couldn't lock on to your target.
you need to go. Well, you don't have to, but if you want to have a fun time, go and look at reviews of the Quake 1 port for PlayStation. Sorry, Quake 2 port for PlayStation 1, and the Alien Resurrection game for PlayStation 1, and see every single fucking review that came out of that time trash the dual analog control scheme for shooters and
Oh
describe how
yeah,
this was the worst thing they had ever fucking played and how awful it fucking
incredible,
was to
incredible.
strafe with one of the sticks and aim with the other.
Uh, just yeah, yep. That's great. Aged like fucking milk. Mm-hmm. 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 So yeah, Breath of the Wild 2 back in the oven. Spring 2023.
Well, the thing with Breath of the Wild 2 for um, the Elden Ring comparison is that specifically Elden Ring's biggest strength is Breath of the Wild 1's biggest weakness, which is despite the open world, when you went to Breath of the Wild, you could only get a variation of a thing you already had and
Mm-hmm.
could fill up on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Elden Ring is like, well, I mean, you might not be running a faith build, but you could. There's something here that you might
True.
like.
Yes.
And the fear that I had for Breath of the Wild 2 was that it would be the same idea, and that you would finish a dungeon or a puzzle, and you would get like, oh, cool, it's a sword. I'm gonna leave on the floor because I don't want to fucking fill up my inventory with weaker shit.
I think there's an easy solution that doesn't have an easy implementation, and I know that it's not going to happen, but it would be as simple as you don't only play as Link.
That would be cool.
You get to play as Zelda and maybe even any of the heroes.
Well,
That
not them, but anybody
that
else.
well, they're the main fucking, they're in this setting, they're the other main characters. But the same way you get to feel that touch in the Dynasty Warriors games, the Hyrule Warriors Muso shit, like absolutely allowing you to play as more than just Link would help that problem immensely. You know?
Yeah, what?
Um and I mean shit, we're reinventing the formula. Why not take other swings at that? So all right. So then there's that. There's some Capcom news, which is positive, due to how well recent performances have been in all Capcom sales. They've hit a fifth consecutive year of record profits. All base salaries employees are raising by 30%.
Hey, whoa, hey, that fucking owns.
It's great. That's very good. Love to see it. Um, and that's like especially something like that, which is an across the board increase. Fuck yeah, good on them. Um,
That rules.
it's the kind of thing that like it shouldn't take 5 years of doing well for that to drop.
That,
But
like, even I can understand you don't want to have 1 or 2 good years and give everyone the bump, and then the next year's a fucking crash and burn and go, oh shit, now we need to cut.
yeah, but it certainly is the type of thing that you're like, I wish this was a common practice and not just a, you know, um, an occasional headline. Otherwise, you're talking about Metacritic bonuses, you know?
You think they waited until Ono left to give people raises?
The answer is no, but let's just say yeah, why not?
Yeah, wouldn't that be fun? Some
Why
guy on the
not?
board like, I'll fucking be dead in my fucking grave before I give that guy an extra dime.